Okay, so I'm going to do this video for my Windy Cities because it looks like you guys have problems that are different than the second cities, or most of your problems are different. So I'll do a separate video for each of you. So, Windy Cities, you're in green here. Can you circle your problems that you need to do? I'm going to scroll down because you have one more at the bottom. Whoops, 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 whoops. There you go. And then once you finish circling those ones, try them by yourself, pause the video, and then come back to see how you did. All right, Windy City. So let's go over this row of finding the product when you write it vertically. All right, so 3 times 0 is 0. Then 3 times 8 tens is 24, but it's not really 24 because remember, this is 8 tens. It's in the tens place. So that's really like adding another 0 here, 240, because it's 24 tens. All right, so that would be 240. Okay, 9 times 0 is 0, so you can just kind of skip that. And then 9 times 6 is 54 tens. So you have to have that 0 because this is really 6 tens. 54 tens is 540. 8 times 0 is 0. And then 8 times 9 tens is 72 tens. So that's 720. And the last one, 8 times 0 is 0. And 8 times 8 tens is 64 tens, which is really 640. Okay, so technically you would add these two together and you would find your final answer, 640, but I'm not doing that because the answer is the same thing when you add 0. It will change once you get numbers that aren't ending in 0. Okay, and then 9 times 90, you can use any strategy you want. If you are good at the covering up the 0 strategy, it's probably what most of you use. 9 times 9 is 81 plus a 0. 70 times 8 is like 7 times 8, which is 56, and then a 0. Okay, these ones are from like 5 point, was it 5.1 or 5.2, where you have to find the missing factor. What do you multiply by 80 to get 480? Now I know that we have this 0 trick, right? So whenever I see a 0, I know they crossed it out and put it back in. So I'm going to cross it out again to figure out what is the number that they multiply by 8 to get 48. It's 6. And this one already has the 0 that matches with this 0. So I'm not going to add a 0 to this because then the answer would have had 2 zeros in the end, and it doesn't. Now, what do I need to multiply by 7 to get 420? So again, it looks like I'm using the 0 trick. I'm going to cover it up. What do you multiply by 7 to get 42? 6. But if I just do 7 times 6, that would be 42. I need it to be 420. So I have to put the 0 in. So it should be 60. Does that make sense now? 7 times 60 is 420. Okay, number 27 is asking you if it's sense or nonsense. So does it make sense or does it not make sense? Lori says that 8 is not a factor of 80 because 8 does not end in 0. Does her statement make sense? So is 8 a factor of 80 or not? Does a number have to end in 0 to be a factor of 80? What did you think? No, right? Because there has to be another number that you multiply by that 0 number. So can you multiply 8 by something and it gets you 80? What number? 10. So the 10 is a factor of 80 and the 8 is a factor of 80. So it does not make sense because 8 times 10 is 80. Okay, last one. The book club members read 200 books in all. Each member read 5 books. Write an equation to find the number of members in the book club. Use a letter to stand for the unknown factor. So this is reviewing, again, I forget which lesson, if it was 5.1 or 5.2, where you put a letter in to show a part that you don't know yet, okay? So let's figure out the parts we do know. The book club members read 200 books in all, so that's the total. And each member read 5, so that's how many in each. Where do those parts go in multiplication problems? Well, in multiplication, I know the total is at the end, and I know the in each is second, and the first number is the number of groups. So that would be like the number of members in the club, because each member has like a little set of books. So this is one group of books for this person, one group of books for this person, one group of books for this person. Okay, so I'm going to use an M for member. So if there's 3 members, you'd have 3 groups of 5, right? 5 books. Or 4 members, you'd have 4 groups of 5 books. So now, what number goes here that would make this equal 200? I see an extra 0 here. So let me take out that last 0. What do I multiply by 5 to get 20? Or, see if we can solve it. M equals 4. So now let's check to see if that makes sense. 4 times 5 equals 20. I don't really want it to equal 20. I want it to equal 200. So if I see that the answer has an extra 0, I need one of my factors to have that extra 0 too. So I need to put the 0 into this one since the 5 doesn't have one. Now be careful. Even though there's 2 zeros in this answer, there's not 2 zeros in my number for M, because if I check it, 400 times 5, what would that be? 400 times 5 would be 4 times 5, which is 20, and then 2 extra zeros. And that's not how many books that I want, okay? So really, I just have 1 0 here, but just 4 times 5 equals 20 has its own 0 too. So that's why there's 2 zeros here, because the product of 4 times 5 has a 0 in it already. Okay, I'm just going to go forward to see if there's any other problems on the next page that I'd like the Windy Cities to do. Okay, Windy Cities, Windy Cities, I would like you to do number 29. It's kind of like a math riddle that we did the other day during our Google Meet. And so see if you can follow all the clues to this riddle and solve it. So 29 right here with the baseball. Go ahead and pause your video, try it, and then come back. All right, so it says Frank has a 2-digit number on his baseball uniform. The number is a multiple of 10 and has 3 for one of its factors. What 3 numbers could Frank have on his uniform? Okay, so first, what do we need to find? We need to find 3 different numbers that could be on the back of his uniform. Okay, so you should have this written right here. What information do you need to use? Let's put our clues down. Okay, so I put the 3 clues down that we have to follow with our number. Has to be 2 digits. It has to be a multiple of 10. So remember, multiples of 10 just mean it ends with a 0. And it has to have a factor of 3. So basically, we might do some guess and checks to see if a number we guess follows all 3 of these rules, okay? Now, one thing that I might start with is I might just put 2 lines here just so I know it has to have 2 digits in the number. So it has to follow this 2-digit. What else could I fill in already with my number? It has to be a multiple of 10, so that means it has to end with 0. Okay. And then a factor of 3. So there's nothing easy I could fill in right here that gives me the one number that's a factor of 3, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to Maybe I could multiply some numbers by 3 and see if they give me something that has an answer that looks like this. We don't know what's going to go in this tens place, but we know there can't be any other digits because it has to only be 2 digits and it has to end with 0. Okay, so maybe I can multiply by 3 here to see how we do. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6, right? And 3 times 3 is 9. Okay. You can maybe do some shortcuts now. Some of you might be already thinking of a number that you could use 3 and it gets you another number that ends with a 0. Like some of you already figured out one of them in your mind, probably. Like I already figured out 3 times 10 equals 30. So I already figured that one out. But I want to make sure that I go through because even though I found one, I'm supposed to find 3 numbers. So I want to go through all of the possible options so I don't leave any possible answers out, even though I was able to figure out one of them in my mind. So I'm going to just keep counting by threes. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30. Wow, all of these multiples didn't have any zeros at the end. And then if I start over, I'm going to have 33, 36. So all of these are still going to end with these same digits again. 39, 42, 45, 48, 51. So I think what I'm going to have to do is keep going until I get to this next set of tens, right? 39, 42, 45, 48, 51, 54, 57, 60. What do you multiply by 3 to get 60? 3 times 20 is 60. So that's another one that works. And it looks like then I'll just follow a pattern to get one more number that ends in 0. From 30 to 60, I just did what? I added 30, right? From 0 to 30, I added 30. From 30 to 60, I added 30. So what if I add another 30 and get 90? Is that a 2-digit number that ends with 0? Yes. And can you multiply 3 times something and get 90? 3 times 30 equals 90. So here are my 3 numbers: 30, 60, 90. Frank has a, oh, so here's the 3 clues that we kind of wrote up here, right? So you're just going to fill them in again. Frank has a 2-digit number on his uniform. The number is a multiple of 10. One factor of the number is 3. Frank could have 30, 60, or 90. That was a challenge. I bet almost all of you probably definitely at least got one of the numbers, so that's really great. And good job if you got a couple others. Okay, guys, that's the last lesson. Tomorrow you have a break. You don't have to do anything. And your Chapter 5 test will be on Monday. Bye, guys. Have a great weekend.